it's interesting because for me, doing the watch channel videos, I purposely set the bar really, really high for those, higher than I'm pretty deep into diminishing returns. I'm not just hitting that like this is really good, like which is like where I want LR to be. I said no, I need these to be like excellent, like the quality of these video, and it is a lot harder. Like it sucks, you know. Like I will do a rough cut of the video, go through the whole entire thing to do a final cut. Then I'll do the voiceover. I'll put in all the graphics, anything I want to put in. I'll hit export. Then I'll watch it. And I'll take notes on anything that I think I need to change, even if it's small. Then I'll make the changes.
Go back to the drawing board.
Export it. And then I'll watch it. And these videos are like pushing an hour. And, you know, people like you and I know, James, that like listening to yourself talk for an hour is just excruciating, right? Like it just, you're like, I already know everything I'm going to say. I never think, oh man, you kind of nailed that. You know, I only think like that sounded stupid. Why did you say it this way? Oh, you messed up, you know? And I've already, and by the way, I said it. And then I watch an export of the video where I listen to 45 minutes of myself talking. And then I change 2 tiny things and I watch the whole stupid thing again. And I'm just praying that I don't have to change anything again. But that's the, you know, that's the level of quality that I wanted for those videos. So it's different, you know, but I've been able to keep up that quality on there. So it's just you know, it's kind of where do you want to land on that scale? You have to decide that ahead of time.
Oh, totally. I mean, that is actually the life of a YouTuber. I mean, I hope you're not taking this in the wrong way, but like when we do LR or Humans of Magic, it's a podcast that happens to have a video component. So it is a lot of just, you can kind of shoot the shit, you can record an intro or whatever, you can put it up. I can do it pretty quickly. But when you're actually in YouTube mode, you actually have to monologue. You actually have to figure out like, how do I hook the viewer in the first 10 seconds? How do I like have the right background music? How do I make the right cuts, transitions, the whole 9 yards? Like that is an order of magnitude harder. Like it's not just putting like a video podcast on a channel.
Exactly.
Not
I
at
agree
all.
with you 100%. Yeah. The video version of the show, I put in some graphics at the beginning and the end. We have a video producer, Jeff, who does the live stream for us, just that we stream to our patrons, and he'll just send me the raw video file and I'll just edit it. But I mean, I'm not really doing much with it. It takes me 10 minutes or something to make the video.
You got it
version
down to a science or a process.
Super quick, and I just spit it out. It's exactly how you described it. But if you look at one of the edits that I do on the Wristwatch Revival videos, and I mean, I literally edit to the frame. You know, like I will go 1 frame back and be like, no, that's too much and cut that. I mean, it's because I'm asking a lot of my audience in that way because it's like a 45-minute, 50-minute video, right? And that's a big ask on YouTube. I mean, what's the most popular thing? Shorts, right? They're like under a minute. And I'm putting out something that's pushing an hour and saying, no, really, you got to watch this. I swear it might be interesting or whatever. And that's a very, very, very tough sell. So what I'm always looking for when I edit are, I usually the term I use in my head is if it's dragging. I don't know if there's like an industry term for it, but basically where like I'm watching and I'm going, come on, dude, like we get it, you know,
it's
like,
dragging on. Okay.
Yeah. You know, and even just for 1 second, like if I'm showing myself work on a part and it's like, I know you're going to pick that up and put it down. Like I'll just cut out the middle part, you know, because like I want to be completionist in the sense that I want to show everything that's actually
it's like
happening.
the shuffling part of magic. Like we don't need that part.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Like, and even if it's an important thing, you see this all the time on like cooking videos, right? They start to chop up an onion. And you watch them make 3 cuts and you're like, okay, I get it. You're going to chop up the onion. And if I have to sit there and watch you go chop, 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 chop to get all the way through the onion, like I probably am already on another video. Like I'm like, once I get the concept of what you're doing, I don't need to see you do all the rest of it.
I'm good.
Yeah. And you know, you mentioned Casey Neistat before, and he was so ahead of the curve on that because he actually would cut himself off of speaking in his videos. because it was obvious where the sentence was going. And he's just like, I don't want to waste your time making you listen to me finish this sentence because you already know what I'm going to say anyway. And I remember the first time I saw that, I thought, wait, this guy's supposed to be some great editor. And he just cut himself off, before he was done with his sentence. Like, that's pretty sloppy. And then I noticed him do it over and over. And I'm like, oh, I always know what he's going to say.
There's a method to the madness.
Yeah. And I'm like, that guy is a G. Like, that is so smart. And I'm always, again, I've said this earlier, I'm always trying to be as respectful of my viewer and my listeners' time as I can in that way. And so that's my way of doing that, is when I watch it back, if I'm like, hey, dude, perfect example. Many times on a watch movement, a part will be held on by like 3 or 4 screws. And I will show myself take off, unscrew one of them, and move that screw onto my table. One. I will not show all 4 ever, because you get the point, right? Yeah. Like, you don't need to see me do the other
repeat,
thing. Right.
Rinse, repeat.
Because every time I did that, I'm like, this is dragging. Like, I'm bored. Like, what's going on? What's the next step? And that's also why I use 3 cameras, because I always want it to be like refreshing visually for you, because I am asking you to go on a pretty long journey with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh man, so much I want to ask here, but let's just start with go back to the most basic one. Like, how did you even come up with this channel, Wristwatch Revival? Like, what's the origin story?
Yeah, the short version is I collected watches. I had started collecting them. And I used to work on cars with my dad, and I live in
family of mechanics, as I remember.
That's right. And I live in the city now, and and my dad passed away, and I don't have a garage. And so it's like working on cars isn't really on the table for me anymore, but I missed it. And I kind of put it together in my head. I found a guy on YouTube named Mark Lovick. He had a channel called the Watch Repair Channel, where he did like tutorials. He was a watch repairer by trade. And I was like, I wonder if I could buy broken ones off eBay for cheap. And then if I could learn how to fix them, I could get some watches that maybe I couldn't afford normally, and I could repair them myself. Because I figured, since nobody really knows how to do it, I could probably get a pretty good deal. And then it also gets me that hands-on thing that I had craved, that I missed about working on cars. Because at that time I'm making like YouTube videos for magic stuff, and I'm doing podcasts, and I'm just always working on computers, and I didn't really make stuff with my hands. And so I decided to pursue it from that. And one of the things that they tell you when you first start working on watches is to take photos of it as you take it apart. And that way you can remember how the parts go back together. And so I was sitting here at my desk, and I'm like, well, I got this like nice camera. Like, I got tripods, I've got lights. So why don't I just point the video camera at the watch when I take it apart? Because that's better than photos, right? I can just rewind to wherever I'm at and basically just reverse engineer it when I want to put the watch back together. And I did that. But then I looked, and I'm like, man, this video looks all right. Like, this is actually okay quality. And then my brain started moving, and I was like, I could get another camera. I actually have another camera already. And I had learned how to do multi-camera setups from MTG Breakdown when I was doing these rewind videos where I sat with a Magic Pro and went over one of their famous matches from their career. But there was a camera on me and the Pro, but also the footage going at the same time. And I had to teach myself how to do that in the video editor to like line it all up and do all that stuff. And so I knew how to do it. And I was like, yeah, this could be kind of cool. And so I just did like a test one, and it looked really good. And I was like, okay. And so then it was over. Like, you know how it is when you get an idea, a new content idea.
Seeds of an idea.
Oh, it's so good. It's my favorite part of the whole thing. And next thing you know, I'm ordering lights and another camera. But of course I needed to really teach myself how to work on watches before I could do it. So I took a good chunk of time. I took a couple of classes online from that same guy, the Mark Lovick from that channel. He had put together a sort of a short training course, and I took that. And then I just started practicing myself. And then when I had a little bit of confidence that I might be able to actually figure some of this stuff out, I started making the videos for it. But I mean, it was just, it's like everything good. It was just for fun. It was just a side project. It was because I wanted to do it.
How did you grow the channel? I mean, I'm really curious about this, like, because now you're in full YouTuber mode. Like, you're trying to figure out how to create compelling videos and How does that process go?
My process is really simple. My process is to put every single shred of effort I can possibly muster into the product itself, the content. So no marketing, no push, almost no effort put into hooking people, thumbnails, titles. I want to just try to simply make the most compelling, best video that I can. And I believe that the current setup that we have around algorithms and things like that, if it's there, we'll pick it up. So I had no plan on, I put almost no effort into popularizing the videos.
Mm-hmm.
I put effectively every shred of effort I had into making the videos themselves what I wanted them to be. I mean, think about it. When the channel came out, it was basically 2020. Technically, the first video went up at the very end of 2019, but then it was a few months before I put up another. And it was like, at that point, everybody, the predominant thinking on YouTube was that videos should be 9 to 10 minutes long. Like anything beyond that, people wouldn't watch. And anything shorter than that, you couldn't really like put ads on effectively. So everybody was making these videos, and mine were 45 minutes. And the reason for that was because I didn't care. I wasn't trying to appease people or an algorithm or anything. I knew what I wanted to make, which is I wanted to tell the full story of this watch. I get the watch, explain something about it, take it apart, figure out what's wrong, fix it, put it back together. Ta-da, it's a finished product, right? And that, for me, took 35 to 55 minutes to tell that story. It just did. Like, there's a lot of moving parts there, and I didn't want to break them up into part 1, part 2, part 3. I hate that. I wanted to put it all out as almost like a TV show, you know, like if you tune in for an hour-long show or whatever. That's what my goal was. And so I said, I don't care. I don't give a crap if nobody, like, if it doesn't get picked up by the algorithm. The people that find it, if they like this type of thing, and if I'm doing a good job, then they'll like it. And so that's what I did, you know, and that's how irreverent I was of trying to make it work from a reverse engineering perspective. It was all about, and it still is, by the way, all about making the best video that I possibly can put out.
Again, letting the work speak for itself.
Right. That's my whole thing. I mean, you can watch my video, like every video I've ever done on Wristwatch Revival, I have never uttered the words, hit the subscribe button.
Mm-hmm.
I have never asked anybody to do anything. I've done no call to actions except for a Patreon. That's it.
It's just deliver value, deliver information to the viewer. Like, this is how I'm restoring this watch. You click this because it says it's for this watch.
Yes.
You're going to get this. You're going to get probably the deepest deep dive on this.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm going to spend some time with you. People watch the videos for various reasons, as I found out now, that were unbeknownst to me, but many people watch them to relax. Many people...
I was going to say that was probably the main reason, right? Is to relax.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought they would be entertaining. I don't know. I sort of in a more general sense, you know, I found it fascinating. And part of my ethos as a content creator is if I find it fascinating and I can translate something complicated like magic or a watch movement to something that normal people could see and that aren't as into it as I am and appreciate, then I can be an important conduit for people finding fascination in things in this world, which is like, what else is there? And so for me, if I can bridge that from one to the other, then I've, you know, already, that to me already is meeting the goal of it being entertaining or interesting. But as it turns out, there's sort of like chunks within that sphere. A lot of people with anxiety watch. They say it calms them down because it gives them something to focus on. And they said that my voice relaxes them. And they say, I know that I've gotten so like way more comments than I could ever think of people saying this actually helps me with this because it's one of the only things I've found that actually takes me out of my head spinning intrusive thought cycle because there's something interesting happening because I talk the whole time. So they're they have something to kind of hang on to, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the whole time. And then other people use it to go to sleep, which I always thought
I was
was
gonna
funny.
say maybe there's like an ASMR style.
People
effect.
talk about that too. So, you know, and then of course, I mean, I assume most people just find it interesting in a kind of a general sense or whatever. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I don't really care why, you know, I know why I think it's interesting, but I mean, you know, people can take from it whatever they find, you know.
Mm. Oh, man, I have so many questions, but I'll try to stick to a few of the key ones, which is like, so you never really started out thinking like, how do I game YouTube? Like,
Never.
how do I get a channel with 1 million subs,
Nope.
or how do I like technique this? It's just simply something you enjoyed,
Yep.
and I guess now though it has become like you are one of the authority channels in this domain, if I can just judge it by the growth or the traction or the viewership. Like, but that's not something that you set out to be, but maybe just post after the fact, it turns out that you became kind of like the 1%, or like the domain expert in this field. So to me, it speaks about how the narrowest of narrow topics can still find a huge audience.
Yes.
If
I mean,
you're the best at it, if you're world class at,
Yep.
which I think your channel is at,
Thank you.
delivering the goods.
That's it. I agree with that 100%. It doesn't, I think I got a little lucky here because I kind of figured that the channel would appeal to people who were into watches. And that's a decent size space on YouTube. But, you know, think like magic size or a little bigger than that maybe. But, you know, enough so that you can make a career or you can plant your flag. And if you're one of the better ones, you can monetize it in enough of a way so that it's like a legitimate place to put your time as an adult, right? You can build it and do that type of thing. But what happened to mine was it was kind of humming along, doing fine. And then like after 5 or 6 months, it kind of found an audience that was a bump up that was bigger. And that I assume was the watch space. And at that point, it was like already getting pretty close to worth it to put the amount of time and effort that I had been putting in, but I was still kind of working towards that goal. But then about 6 months after that, it did the same thing again, except for it expanded more. And I think it just sort of hit an audience of like people who like restorations. It's a big space on YouTube, much bigger than the watch space. And I think it bit enough of that, hit enough of those chords. And again, my idea of speaking to the viewer as an individual person who doesn't know as much about this thing as I do, but might be interested in it, I think brings in, I get a lot of comments from people saying, I don't even own a watch.
Maybe, or
yeah, they're like, I don't even care about watches. I just like watching you do this. Right. So that makes it a little more open. And that size of space, whatever that is, it's way more than enough. You know, I mean, now the watch channel is easily my biggest thing. Like it's 5 times bigger than LR. Like it's not even close, you know? And, you know, and in the grand scheme of YouTube, it's not even a huge channel, you know? It's like, I mean, there's people with 5 million, you know, whatever subs and stuff like that. And I'm not even close to that, you know? So it's one of those things where like, you can find an audience for most topics if you are willing to put in and actually, you know, put out the best stuff consistently.
Was it the algorithm with the restoration crossover, or was there an inflection point with maybe a particular video that really popped off?
So again, I don't actually know what happened. I'm reverse engineering and sort of making a bunch of assumptions.
Yeah.
But it was the algorithm, and it was a pair of videos that popped off at the end of 2021.
Can you reverse engineer and maybe tell me why those 2 videos were especially compelling?
One of them I can, and the other one I can't.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So one of them is because I believe it's because it was a Rolex and it has name recognition, and even people who aren't into watches know what that is.
Yeah,
and they know
what
it's
a Rolex
expensive watch, right? That's just sort of how they think of it. And so I think that was part of it. And then the other one, I think was just a really good video, but that happened to follow that one not that far away. So I think that it just was a 1-2 punch where people would like get served that one, see it, and then see this next one and do it. And then since then I've had a couple of videos that have spiked up well beyond what my normal video would do. And I believe that those bring people in from a wider audience. Like those, for whatever reasons, those ones are more appealing to like a broader, like even just a general YouTube audience type thing. And then they will watch, like they'll binge or go back and find some of the others. Because like I haven't looked at it in a while, because I try actually not to focus on numbers too much, but let me look on my phone, because seriously, like a couple of them are just like completely ridiculous, by
just outperforming all the other videos,
by like such a huge factor. Like, let me find, there's one that's like a really beautiful story. Here it is. Wow. Yeah. So this one's at 8.8 million views. And that's the most on any of my channel by a lot. And, that's.
Was that the Rolex one, or?
It's one of them. Yeah. This one actually came out later. Really, it's actually one of those like beautiful content stories where I put a lot of extra effort into the video, which by no means that it's going to do better than any video, any other video, but it actually did. Like the story was really special. I really took my time and stuck the landing and made sure that I did everything, that I did that story justice. And it all came together, and that ended up being kind of, the #1 video or whatever.
Would you say there's generally a correlation on your channel with the work you put in and the intentionality and the so-called results?
Generally, yes. But on any given video, no.
Okay.
Like if I told you, that I put extra effort into 10 videos because I thought that they really had a chance to be special stories and videos, I would say something like 7 out of 10 of those outperformed, with like 2 out of 10 like absolutely like that one, like ludicrously outperforming. But there's 2 or 3 that just performed like at or below average.
How has your process changed with these videos? Because you mentioned, initially doing it for yourself and making them 45, 55 minutes, however long it took. You had also mentioned, for example, maybe 1 screw, not 4 screws, in terms of maybe cutting out some of the dead time. But like, is it pretty similar to how you do videos now versus back then? Or did you iterate a lot on the process?
Yeah, I really got the process pretty well figured out before I started putting up videos. So I knew I wanted to be proud of the first video that I made. Like I wouldn't want to look back and be embarrassed by it. And even though I'm not, I still think it's like, it holds up okay. Like I definitely have refined my skills in this over time. Now it's like, I'm a machine. I mean, I got this thing down now, because there's a lot of moving parts, 3 cameras going simultaneously. I mean, I'm freaking working on a watch that's this big. It's tiny. It's difficult work, right? It's
sometimes even smaller. I saw the one you did with the tiniest watch. Right?
Oh, so
that was
crazy,
must have been hard.
That thing. Yeah. So these things are, it's a lot, right? Like these are very, very high technical, like
intricate.
Yeah, it's doing 2 really difficult things simultaneously. Like filming a video with 3 separate cameras that all need to be constantly in focus and make sure nothing's going wrong and the audio's there and all the other stuff is already difficult. And then also repairing a watch under cameras is very difficult, because normally you're about 2 inches from the watch itself. The desks that they work on are made so that they raise up to your chin level, and you basically sit right on the very ledge of it so you can get an inch away. And I can't do any of that because then my hands and my head are in the camera view. So I have a totally different, watchmaker approach than most people. But I mean, you just learn different and then you just get used to it. So I added a 3rd camera like a year and a half ago. And that was something that I had wanted to do from the beginning, but wanted to kind of proof of concept this thing out and also just figure out that I could do it at some point. And to me, that was a game changer. It completely added a different dimension. And it in fact is the camera that gets the most camera time. So the camera I added is the one that I use the most. So that,
Wow.
was a very big upgrade for sure. And I had to get another
So
camera and a lens, and I had to spend the money and blah, blah, blah. But
yeah, this is incredible just because it feels like it's all completely self-taught.
it is.
Like you're still a one-person production from what I can
100% one
infer.
person.
Like
Yeah.
you're doing all of the editing,
Yes.
you're still like doing
Everything.
LR, and you're doing wristwatch. Like
Yes.
how do you even balance the time between these two projects? Because
Mm.
I guess LR you've got it down to a science, so that
Yeah.
helps.
LR time-wise doesn't take that much. I mean, the biggest time sink for LR is me drafting, right? Because like I actually have to draft so that I know what I'm talking about, know what cards are doing well, and all that kind of stuff. But I like doing that anyway. That's like I'd rather do that than watch TV. So that's I call it work research, but it's just, I'm just drafting. I want to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but so the rest of the time goes to Wristwatch Revival. I mean, that's it. Again, I really believe in putting the effort up front so that you can do it later. I upgraded my computer setup last year, a year and a half ago, to accommodate Wristwatch Revival stuff. Well, the computers I had before could do it, but what I did is I got a new computer for home and I got a new laptop. And my workflow at this point, if you want to get nerdy, is I got the big hard drives on both. So I got 4 terabyte drives on the laptop and on the desktop, which is freaking expensive, but worth it because each project is about 1 terabyte now when I'm done. They're huge. And
Oh yeah.
and then I use Dropbox. So when I film, I put the stuff on, it goes up to Dropbox, it gets synced up with the laptop. So I can sit here where I'm sitting right now talking to you, James, and I can edit. And then if it's like, oh, I'm going to go to my girlfriend's house and we're going to watch TV or whatever, save it, quit out, grab my laptop. I get on, she puts on some terrible TV show that I don't want to watch, and boom,
You're multitasking.
laptop's open. I can watch The Bachelor and I can edit like
Sure.
a
I mean, you
champion.
don't need to have you don't have to be fully engaged on The Bachelor. It's good.
Exactly. And in fact, it's better to not be in many ways. And but when I open up my laptop, everything's right there.
Yeah.
And there's no difference in editing. Like I
Gotta
have
get that workflow down. Yeah.
and that was really important for me because if I had to be sitting literally at this desk to be able to work on it, the channel wouldn't exist. I mean,
You're
I just
so limited in time, and you have to be here.
And when I go travel for magic events, guess what I'm doing on the airplane, right? Guess what I'm doing in the hotel room, right? I'm an editing machine, but I'm unwilling to hand off that part of the production because to me, the edit is the art. To me, it's like that's where I get to tell the story. And anything that I include in the edit is because I have determined it is important to get this point across or to tell the story that I'm trying to tell. And anything that I haven't is because it was a tough cut that I couldn't fit into the time frame that I want. And I don't trust anybody else to do that.
Precision.
I do want to hire somebody though. I want to hire somebody to
You say that, but how serious are you
I mean
about
it.
it?
I do want to hire somebody to make shorts.
Ah, yes. I was going to ask about that because I feel like there is some value in shorts, maybe getting traffic to the main content.
Yes, and the formula is really easy because you make a short and then you get a short for YouTube, you get a reel for Instagram, you get a TikTok, and then if you put it on Instagram, it can be on Facebook too. So you get effectively the major 4 social medias out of one clip. And what people that do this, I've done a little bit of research, what they look for is they want long form content that you can chop up into a bunch of shorts.
Yes.
That's what I have, right? I mean, I've spent the last 4 days working on my backup solution that I have so that I can have access to all of these. And when I finally find somebody to make these shorts for me, I've been looking, I've actually had 2 different people like semi-hired to do it and it didn't work out for unrelated to like they had life stuff come up and couldn't do it. But when I do finally stick the landing and get somebody to do it, that I will hand off and say, make this your own. I'm going to give you guidance, but like, I don't care. Like I want these, and I've got 2.5 years worth of projects that can just be mined for as many of these things as possible.
You could literally if you have someone do them and do them well, you could literally be posting like 3 shorts a day if you needed to.
For a long time.
Each episode can be broken down into so many things. And I feel like they're still on brand with the channel because they're really just to hook people to get into.
Yep.
You don't have to compromise on the content, and the source material is already there.
And it's already there, right? And so it's really just
finding the
there
time to do the shorts.
Right. And so I did try that. And I made a couple. And I made a TikTok, which I didn't even have. I did a short of one of my things. I put it up on TikTok, and it got like 50,000 views in like a week. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's enough. Like, I'm not going to, I had no followers, like literally zero when I put it up. So like, there's something there. I don't need any more proof of concept than that. I just need to find somebody that I can say, here's 35 terabytes of projects. Anytime you'd like to turn some of your time into money, turn these into shorts and get them back to me. You know, so that's I've been keep my eye open for something like that.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking all these questions is because yes, I am that guy. I'm the guy who like watches YouTube on how to YouTube and like
don't do that.
I know it's terrible. It's
your brain space will go to the wrong things.
It's the mush.
I am not trying to argue that those things do not have an impact. I do try to make the best thumbnail that I can.
Sure.
But it's 5% of the time. Where I feel like a lot of people spend 50% of the time on what time should I post this, and you know what thumbnail.
Yeah,
and
the mechanics of it, right? There's
it's
this
like
over fetishization of
totally.
Like, you know, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Like, and here's my channel on how to do X, Y, and Z. There's like a cottage industry on like how to YouTube, and it's by people that do nothing but tell you how to YouTube.
Yes.
Like they don't actually have original content.
Right.
They just regurgitating.
Right. And
like,
who they should
like
listen
5 secrets to have a good
is
YouTube
they should
channel.
listen to people like me who started with 0 subscribers and no audience at all, 2.5 years ago. Right.
It's pure. You just did something that you wanted to do. You did it to the best quality standard that you could do.
Yes.
And you focused on that.
Yes.
That's it.
And I've never asked anybody in the video to do anything related to YouTube.
Right.
So however many subscribers the channel has, those were people who said, I like this video, and if he puts out another one, I'd like to see that one too. So I'm going to hit this button.
Yeah.
And the people that hit the like button said, I like this.
Right.
I like this guy. I like what he's doing, and I'm going to click. Right.
There's no please like, subscribe,
smash
get on my
that
Patreon.
Like button. Right.
Smash that like button.
The only one I do is the Patreon. And I take a section in the middle of the video and I keep it short. It's like 30 seconds to a minute.
Respectful.
And I just say, hey, if you like what I'm doing here, you can support me here. Totally optional. You get a couple of little perks.
It's not pushy. It's not like 3 times a video or something.
And that's it. And I'm done. And, but I'll tell you what, and I'm not saying that I'll do this forever, but there are very difficult decisions that need to be made around this. Are you willing to commit to this quality thing? Because guess what happens when your channel hits certain levels? People come and say, do you want to do a sponsored spot?
Yeah, sponsorships. Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah,
I mean, you must get approached now.
All the time. Right? And they'll give me a lot of money, $5,000 for one episode, for one thing. Here you go. No problem.
Yeah.
And I've told them all no. Even if they're companies that I think are totally fine. I definitely wouldn't do one for a company that didn't
why
want.
not? Why not? It's just
because
a
I think
Dorito
it
in the
messes
middle.
with the content.
So you're a purist in that sense.
Hey man, I mean it. When I say I want this thing to be the best it can possibly be, if I'm telling the story of a watch, hey, this was this guy's grandpa's watch and he died, he left it to him and a thing, and then I go, have you ever heard of Squarespace?
By the way, speaking of this deceased person, this is what you can do to keep track of your family.
Yeah, how about life insurance or Ancestry.com? It completely takes you out of the moment. It's impersonal. People don't like it, and it sucks. That said, content creation is a very tough game. You don't get to do it forever, and I don't blame anybody who would take that money. But for me, I firmly believe that part of the reason that the channel's grown to where it's grown is because I have sidestepped those things. Because people are so used to people begging them for likes and subscriptions, for pitching them random hair club stuff in the middle of their video, that they appreciate that I don't. Now, I don't know if they appreciate it in like an outward way. Like I don't have people coming up and saying, hey, I love that you don't do this. But I think that it connects me more with them to just talk and do the content. But I will tell you, I am not against the business side of things when it comes to this, because what I have decided to do is start a website where I will sell the watches that I've fixed on the channel, used watches like vintage watches, and toolkits for working on watches that I have personally curated myself. And this site's actually getting really close to launching. We're effectively done with it. We're going to do a soft launch just to my patrons to make sure that the back end stuff is all working and everything. But before the end of the year, before Christmas time, it will be launched. So I'm not going to stop the whole video to say, you need to go to my website. I'm going to say, hey, I know a bunch of you, and this is true, by the way, I know a bunch of you have asked me about getting into this hobby. And a lot of you have asked me about what tools to get and how confusing it can be to figure out which tools you want to buy the good version of, which one to buy the bad version of. Well, I've got a bunch of kits over at my website. So if you want to check that out, you can do that. So I'm basically, instead of, my thought process is I could take the short-term money from the sponsors to point my audience and use that credibility to point them at Squarespace or whatever, or I can point them at me, right? Mm-hmm. At myself. And it's a big bet because I've never done a retail website before, and I'm working with a partner, but like he hasn't really either. We both like know the space, and we're not like just slamming our head into the wall, but at the same time, it's like, it's different when you've really done it before and built out a fully fleshed out retail site, and we haven't. So we're kind of just, I'm making a bet on myself that I can take that audience and point them at me, and then try to make that into a business that's off of YouTube and separate from YouTube. So that's my, that's my bet. That's what I'm trying to do, rather than take the short-term monetary benefit.
Yeah. I mean, we all have a certain amount of credibility or credit, and you're choosing to spend it in something that feels more congruent to what the content is, right?
Yes.
So that
and
there's something good about it.
Yeah, and I can talk about it on the video without
it feeling forced in your own, like hearing yourself talk about it in an artificial way, right?
Yes, and I will find a way to bring it up every video. I will. Like, I'm not dumb, right? It's gonna get in there.
Oh yeah.
But it might just be as simple as, it's some, minute 34, and I just say something like, if you like what I'm doing here as far as watch restoration goes, and you've been thinking about getting into it, I do have some curated toolkits and some watches, and and we've got, we're going to sell the watch movement, like a generic one, a Chinese version of like sort of a movement design that's been around forever that you can get for like $50, but we're going to sell them on the website too. And one of my videos that I'm going to put out is me taking that movement apart and putting it back together using only tools from the kit. So if you want to replicate that, it's a video that I'm going to just take the time to name the parts, and so it'll have a general appeal. But during the course of that, I'll say, and by the way, if you're interested in trying this for yourself, you can buy this movement and all the tools that you see in this over at my website. So like, I'm trying to have two pillars here, because I mean, it is nerve-wracking having, most of your income come from one platform.
Oh yeah.
Sucks.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think YouTube's going to be around for a very long time, but it's still the old, like, it's still a variation of like, have an email mailing list, because Facebook could go away. So if you're only posting on Facebook, like, and the algorithm, or it doesn't go away, but the algorithm de-emphasizes your content, you got to have a way to take control of your destiny. Not saying that something's going to happen on YouTube, but just hedging, right?
Yes, that's right.